wanted to keep the new menu simple. And so that's all that we have in the menu. It's very simple. That means we've eliminated a lot of the specialty drinks. We've taken away many of the variations, and we've only recommended very simple menus with just the basics, as it were. So that means we have an espresso, right? Pictured there in the little 3-ounce cup, that's the espresso. We also have a macchiato. Probably none of you can reach that button, but macchiato is the next one. The macchiato is also in the espresso cup, but it's served with just a little dollop of milk on top. I think the cleanest way to do that, to make it look pretty, ooh, that was too much. Oh, my scale is all confused.
Yung may foam lang siya. Macchiato.
The best way, the easiest, cleanest way to do this is just to take a little dollop of foam from something else and just lay it on top of the spoon. You can also pour a little bit if you want to. The Americano I have pictured here in the 8-ounce cup, but it should be in the 10-ounce cup. That was my mistake when I took the photo. So we're hoping for the Americanos to come out in the 10-ounce cup, just like the lattes. Flat whites are in the small cup. Here's the cappuccino is in the small cup, and the latte is in the large cup. Having been so stable on board for several days, suddenly I'm like, oh right, we're moving now. That's what's happening. It took me a moment to realize.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
If you're making Americano, what is the first you need to put? Water or the coffee?
First, you need
To put in a cup.
yes. Arif, this is for you. You can serve it either way. You can do water first and then espresso. You can do espresso and then water. I think there's a very famous poster of coffee drinks that you can find easily online that shows an Americano with the water on top of the espresso and a long black with the espresso on top of the water. To me, a long black and an Americano are both espresso and water. And whether you put it first or second doesn't really make that much of a difference to me. Rather, it doesn't make that much, I'm not fussed about how you serve that. I think really if you care, perhaps the espresso on the top tastes best, but it's a really small difference.
Okay.
They both taste nice. I think maybe the espresso on top tastes better most of the time. Sometimes, but it's not 100% of the time. The one thing I would say never to do is to run an Americano with your long flow, your continuous button, and just fill the cup up, taking like the 2 minutes it takes to fill the cup. That's not a good way to serve an Americano. That will be bitter, it'll be astringent, and it'll be kind of gross, so not ideal. Otherwise though, whatever works for your bar flow is what I would recommend. So if it's easy for you to take that large cup and to fill it up with water, we're gonna long press actually on here, that'll fill it up. A long press of that, and then pop it under. You get your espresso ready, and you tamp it, and you pop it in place, and you move it over. Great. Maybe you start your espresso. Look at the handle go. Maybe you start your espresso. And you forget to have your cup ready. Maybe we don't have that. We forget, and you start extracting, and you're like, oh, I don't have time. Just put that there, fill it up afterwards, and they'll both come out okay. There's a little bit of a difference, but not too much. That answer the question? Yeah. Guests will always ask for slightly different drinks. They'll have a different name for something that you've never heard before. People always surprise you with their coffee orders, but do your best. Make your best judgment. Cleaning would be next. Feel ready for that? For cleaning our equipment, we want to obviously clean any debris and things, right? That's just your normal clean. You guys are very good at cleaning. But for our coffee equipment, for best taste and consistency and also the longevity of the machine, we need to clean anything that has oils that are left behind as a remnant. So there are 3 sources of oils that typically interact with your coffee equipment. Do you have any guesses as to what those 3 are? The water shouldn't have oil in it. There may be minerals or things, there might be some sediment. So like on this here, we get this needs to be cleaned because we have some water deposits left over, so that needs polishing. But that's not actually oils, that's not dirty, that's just aesthetically isn't very pleasing. So oils that can oxidize and go stale or rancid, there are 3 sources of that. We talked about one of them earlier when we were looking at the decaf.
The bean?
The beans themselves have oil, right? So anything that's come in contact with the coffee needs to be cleaned. We do have a cleaning product for coffee. I'll show you how this is in a moment. But so coffee is one source of oil. What's another source of oil?
Milk?
Yeah, milk has milk fats, and that's a source of oil. So absolutely, anything that touches the milk needs cleaning. 3rd source of oil. Which one? The coffee grounds, that does have oil, but that was the first one. So yes, we have that. We have coffee, we have milk. What did you say? The 3rd one is you. Your skins have oil. So, anything you touch needs to be cleaned. That's a trick question.
Very tricky, yeah.
So, if you
So I need to shower.
yes, exactly. But the point is, the handles, the knobs, the steam one, anything, even if you've left fingerprints behind, anything that you've touched also needs cleaning. So if you clean those 3 things, you've probably cleaned your equipment, and we're happy about it. So for our product, our cleaning, let's clean this first one. You should have somewhere on your, attached to your station on your kit, a blind portafilter. This one specifically isn't, it's kind of like a hybrid. I don't actually know why they do it this way. But you have a metal one. They have this little guy here, and that is going to seal it so that no pressure, no water, when the pressure hits this, it will fill it up and won't allow that to go through. We're gonna pop out our basket, which remember will be dirty on the bottom. We're gonna pop that out, pop this guy in its place. Ooh. Sometimes you'll notice that the spring has come out of the groove it's supposed to live in. In this case, it had dropped below. And if you see that, just fit it back in the groove. It lives in that little groove inside. Dun, 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 dun.
Okay.
Dun, 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 dun. It lives in that groove inside. And we're going to pop that blind in place. And then we're going to take a scoop of this, which we have this one scoop of powder. That just goes right there on top. And we lock that in place. Then you hold down 1 and 3 at the same time, and it'll start a clean cycle. That clean cycle is going to push water through it. It'll release the pressure, it'll add to backflush, push water, release backflush, push, release backflush, push, release backflush. Does it like 8 times. And it's just going to cycle the cleaning product through the line. And you won't see it here because it's blocked. It's actually flowing down through a little overpressure valve that's in the drain box that's down here that we'll see when we lift the drain tray. But we're going to do that. We're going to do that for each of these. Once we're done with that, we're also going to clean the screen by taking away your portafilter. And there's a little red lever in the back behind this that if you push that, it's actually going to drop it. Usually I use a cloth where I just hold it with this, and I push that little lever, and I let it drop down until that actual all drops down. And we'll want to clean the screen that's up here and make sure it's free of coffee. You can use the brush for that. Later on, as you are more experienced, you also might take the screen off and the screw and clean underneath that, and I'm going to show that to you, but at the moment I don't want you to do that. I don't think your supervisors want you to do that, because they don't want you to lose the screw. And losing that screw is very bad, because it means that we can't make a coffee, so Don't ever lose that screw. At the moment, you'll just run some water through. You'll take your brush, and you'll give it a little scrub, and you'll give the outside a little scrub, and the backside a little scrub. You'll give this a little scrub, and basically you'll just make sure that there's no coffee left anywhere on this piece of equipment, on the portafilter forks that hold your portafilter in place. When you look at this, you'll actually see that there is a silicone gasket. It's bright orange. It's really easy to see. It gets covered in coffee, so just make sure you use this to clean that up. And then when you need to put it back together, you'll lift this bottom part, push that so it locks in place, because if you lift it now, it doesn't go back up. But if I press here, it locks in place. Ta-da. Okay, so once I've done my first clean, I release that. There's a little bit of soap left, so it's good to have a little bit of a rinse here, and I just usually do this. Give it a little rinse. And then I lock it back in place, and I do it again. But no soap the second time. You use soap the first time, and you just do clean water for the second time. And that gives it a rinse. And you'll just let that go. Let me show you what it looks like if you do take that screen off.
Good morning.
What am I doing? This is the wrong tool. We need this tool. So usually all you have to do is loosen that bolt, and then you can take it off by hand. So you have this screen that lives up there, and the screw that holds it in place. Now that screw, if you want to take a look at it, it has some holes drilled in it. The water actually passes through those holes. So the water enters in from the nose, and then it sprays out in jets from the side. And if you don't have a screw like that, which you can imagine that screw is hard to find, that means you block the water if there's no holes in it. So you do have some of these. Every machine has one per group head. Carlos has some spares in the office. But if you lose these, it means you can't make coffee until you get a new one. So don't take it off. If you have to take it off for some reason or end up doing it in the future, never let it go. I usually take this off. I hold it in my hand. I wipe it with my cloth. I take my screen and make sure there's no coffee debris left on the top side. I might take this and I'll wipe this as well, making sure there's no coffee left behind. And then I put it back together, having never set it down, and I put it right back on.
That screw is not a hand tight, no?
And it can be hand tight. Yeah.
Hand tight.
Hand tight is usually tight enough. Once in a while, it needs to be a little bit tighter than that. But as long as the screen isn't wobbling, it's tight enough. And so hand tight is usually enough. It sometimes gets a little tighter in service, so I frequently have a little spanner to loosen it, but I rarely use the spanner to tighten it. Just to loosen it, hand tight is enough at the end. Great. And that would be the group heads. For the grinder, it is not a bad thing to once in a while clean the hopper. If I ever take this away, typically I want to make sure that I've emptied the hopper first. I would do that before I take the hopper away, I would just close the bean gate here, making sure no coffee will fall out, and then I would just grind through everything else that remains. At the moment, that is the only safe and sanitary way to clean this. You could do something else that's safe or something else that's sanitary. But I don't know of another method at the moment that's both safe and sanitary. So if you need to empty this, do it just by grinding through and wasting that coffee. If I do take it away, I'm going to turn it off. I'm also going to cover them. Excuse me. Beans? Nope. Wrong thing. When I'm cleaning the hopper, I would empty the beans into a container, and then I would take that over, and I could pop it on the steam one, spraying out the inside of the hopper, and then I would just let it dry. I would take that, usually put it on top of the espresso machine, and I would let the hopper dry. Over time, the oils from the beans will build up on the inside of the hopper, so you just want to clean that occasionally. If there's visible oils, it might need a little bit of hand washing with some hot and soapy water. But when you do that, little hot soapy water on the inside, give it a steam clean, and then let it dry.
Oh. And
And usually by hand. Not the best thing to send it through the pot washer because sometimes it breaks. So just do it by hand. That's pretty much all we have to do for the grinder. It is good to give it a wipe down, of course. So you brush it, clean it, wipe it. You guys are wonderful at polishing things. So polish it, make it shiny. It'll be good to go. Other than that, we do need to clean the drip tray and the steam wands. Steam wands should be pretty simple. Ooh, that one's hot still. Usually you can twist these off by hand, at least unless they've been tightened with a spanner, and then you might need a spanner to take them off. But the steam tip just comes off. There's always a little bit of milk right on the tip, so it's always worth making sure to clean that part of it. We have a little bit of I think we have a solution. I don't know if we have a solution. Just take this off. If we have a pipe cleaner, we can clean that in there. We can clean out any milk that's stuck on the threads. There's a little gasket here that should be in place. If you see that it's damaged, let somebody know so that they can replace it. And then that would just get screwed back on. There we go. Any kind of sanitizer will be fine for this. You just want to make sure that the steam one has been cleaned. It's been in milk, your hands have touched that, right? You just want to make sure that that's clean. For the drain tray, you have to lift away the scale plates. Ta-da. These little black things allow the water to drain as well. So when you put them back, the little cutout goes towards the machine, just like on the plates to match them. This little bit here faces the machine. Unfortunately, it doesn't smile at you. It's an upside down smiley face. One more. Again, I would not send these to the pot wash because more than likely they'll get lost. So just wash those by hand. You would take away the tray. Empty out the drip tray. Usually I just give it a little tilt and maybe I chase the water down. The hole for the drain is right here. That goes into a little box in the back, so I just kind of push that out. Then I take it away. Usually there's a little bit of a drip. So I'd probably take my rag and just make sure I get the drip. Your drain box back here is what collects all of that before it sends it down the pipe and into here. And once in a while, it's not a bad thing to take a kitchen towel or something and just scoop out the little bit of sediment that lives in there, because it's good to keep it clean. It has you have a pretty strong drain here. Rather, it has a positive flow, a strong flow. It'll take most of the sediment with it, but there'll be a little bit in that drain box. It's never a bad thing just to scoop it out a little bit. Throw that in the bin, get rid of that. And that's pretty much it. Obviously, you want to clean the backsplash. You'll have coffee, you'll have water there, but that's the same here. We just want to polish that with whatever you clean mirror surfaces with so that it's shiny and looks pretty for your guests. How do you guys feel about that? Amazing. All of those pieces are written here, but I just wanted to walk you through them and so you could see what it looks like. Amazing. There's another one for La Chimbales, but you don't have those, so we don't have to worry about it. Your other machines on board, the Linea PBs, this again is the KB90, but the Linea PB, the other machine, cleans basically the same. The difference being that You don't have to drop these down because this doesn't exist on the PV, so this you don't have to worry about. You still want to clean the screen, but it cleans a little bit differently. I hope I can show somebody that before we leave, but hopefully they're just a little bit different, mostly the same. And the other thing is that it has that little black guard on the steam wands. It's good to clean those as well. Those get grimy with finger oils, they get milk trapped underneath them. So I frequently will slide them up or pull them down so I can clean underneath them. And if I ever do take the tips off, I might slide it off entirely, wash that up, maybe steam it in hot water before I slide it back together. And that is a full clean on your espresso machine. Feel good? Amazing. That's it, guys. We are right there. I think we even just hit our correct time as well. So that would be recap questions, and then we'd be done.
I have some question.
Yes.
What is the temperature of this cup on the top?
The cups are not
Yeah.
very hot. They're warm to the touch. I would guess this is probably 60 degrees, maybe 65 up here. So if the cups rest up here long enough, they'll be a similar temperature, but they're also cooling off. So like this cup, maybe 55.
But if you're making a coffee, should be maintain that temperature of the cup.
Theoretically, yeah. A lot of times what happens on shore is that they have really thick porcelain.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thermal mass there, so it wants to equalize with its environment. They'll stack the cups like 3 or 4 tall. The cups on top are basically room temperature, right? So they're like 20-ish degrees. You put a hot espresso in there, you put hot milk in there. Your milk you steam to 65, but your cup's like at 20. They equalize each other out. By the time it gets to the tray, the whole beverage is now like 45, 50 degrees. So sometimes if you have a thicker cup, you actually might have to steam it a little hotter. Your porcelain here is quite thin, so I think it's pretty precise. If you steam your milk to 60 and you put it in this cup, it's going to equalize it maybe like 58. Like you won't lose much heat to a cup. But if the cup's coming from the glass washer, maybe it would be a little colder. So did that answer your question?
And also, some guests is requesting so much hot coffee.
Yeah, there will always be some guests who
Yeah.
want that extra hot cup.
Yeah.
A lot of times guests honestly just want to feel it with their hands. They don't necessarily want to drink it hot. They want to hold it hot, let it cool down, and then drink it later.
Yeah.
And if somebody asks for it extra hot, make it a little extra hot. But there's also the place of not wanting to burn somebody, so you don't want to assume extra hot. Let somebody ask for extra hot.
Did you overheat the milk or only on the cup?
So sometimes you can heat the cup, and that's enough. That often works on shore where you have that thicker porcelain cup, because the liquid inside won't be too hot, but the cup will. Your cup here, honestly, you could try it, but without the liquid, because it's so thin, that might not be as effective in these porcelain cups. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know. You can try preheating the cup, but it's so thin that as soon as you pour liquid in it, it'll equalize, and so it might not feel very hot anymore. So if they ask for it extra hot, you might have to make it extra hot, but do your best, only if they ask. Something I didn't clarify earlier, well, I did in the level 1, in the module 1, but let me just say again, everything we're recommending on your menu is a double shot.
Yeah.
Right? A guest can ask for a single shot. Maybe they'll ask for a ristretto. We have a lot of Italians on board. Espresso ristretto. Or they'll just come and ask for a ristretto, right?
Yeah.
A ristretto. Make it a single shot. That's fine. Just serve it as a single. If we were paying for it, they would still pay for the double, because you're still pulling a double. You're just using half of it. You're using the single. Do your best to match what they want, but have that conversation like, oh, can I have an espresso? Yeah, great. Here you go. Wow, that's really full. Oh yeah, we're pulling a double shot recipe right now. We find that it's very consistent for its flavor profile. That's what was recommended from our coffee roaster. I met this guy, Jeremy, and he told me that's the way to do it. Whatever your answer is, it's fine. But hopefully use that double espresso for everything, unless very specifically it needs to be something else.
Yeah, because some other guests are requesting some flat white, but she want espresso on the side.
Yeah.
She can put it
and
by
people are weird like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are just
to be
weird
honest.
to be weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you have friends like this, but sometimes you make a ridiculous request just so you can feel important, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you don't actually want it that way,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you want to feel important, so you make someone go out of their way to make it for you.
Yeah, yeah.
There's always that one person who does that. So I would like all of it like this, but I'm gonna be. Can I be difficult and can I have it on the side and like split in half and one of them sweetened and can I have a little bit of soy milk as well as oat milk? And then can you make one a cappuccino and one a flat white, but then blend them together for me? But I also want a swirl and a. Good morning, good morning. Would you like the coffee?
Yes.
What would you like?
But you never asked.
I'm gonna let you get all the way.
I would love a oat cappuccino.
I don't have any oat milk yet.
Oh, I thought you just said it.
I was talking about it, but I don't actually have any. Maybe today we'll get.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Sometime
Maybe this
soon.
afternoon.
Maybe this afternoon, yeah.
What about just a regular cappuccino then?
Yeah. I do have dairy or skimmed. Or I have
Skimmed.
whole or skimmed. Skim cappuccino. We can do that.
Yay.
Absolutely can.
Oh, hello. How are you?
How are you?
You okay, Lloyd?
But other than that, guys, I'm happy to hang out for questions. But you are free to go if you have other things you want to do. Thank you so much for your time
Thank you
today.
so much.
I'm just gonna grab my sister.
You're welcome to.
Let's go.
Any idea how much